A substantial threat new tonight on our news live at 7. The Prime Minister pushes for a collective effort to help Haiti. And caught on camera, the shocking video of a man being arrested by police on Tuesday. Plus, an activist detained and released by police as she protested what she called the failing health system, what she says brought her to the breaking point. And then in our news at 7:30, giving the life-saving gift of blood, how you can help to save a life as the blood bank faces a critical shortage of supplies. Our news live at 7 starts now. Welcome to our news live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Kendino Knowles. Prime Minister Philip Davis dedicating much of his address at the opening session at the community of Latin American and Caribbean states to the ongoing crises in Haiti. Davis saying it will take a collective approach to help Haiti find a way out. Bethany McDermott gets us started tonight.
Amid ongoing economic instability in Haiti and a growing health crisis, Prime Minister Philip Davis says the overall situation is worsening and poses a substantial threat to the Bahamas and neighboring countries. The PM was speaking in Argentina at the opening session of the 7th Summit of Heads of State and Government of the Community of Latin America and Caribbean States.
The crisis in Haiti is getting worse. The tragic situation there continues to pose a substantial threat not only to Haitians, but also to the Bahamas and neighboring countries, all of whom are experiencing a significant increase in irregular and often dangerous migration.
On Sunday, law enforcement apprehended nearly 400 Haitian nationals looking to illegally enter the Bahamas. The United States is calling it one of the largest smuggling operations in the region. That was followed by another 26 caught in South Andros Tuesday evening.
With the support and leadership of Haiti, collectively, we can, through CELAC and other regional organizations, help Haitians to build a path out of their crisis. We commend Haitian-led efforts to hold elections before the end of 2023 to arrest the threat to public security posed by violent gangs, to relieve hunger and malnutrition, and to alleviate the political crisis.
Davis, who was also the chairman of CARICOM, says enhanced regional partnerships can also help to scale up capacity building for the local police and tackle people, contraband, and gun trafficking. The crisis in Haiti worsened following the assassination of President Jovenel Moise. Haiti has no president or sitting parliament and hasn't seen an election since 2016.
These Haiti-led solutions provide promising alternatives to the usual inclination to carry out activities in Haiti without Haitian direction, and a preference for investing in the strengthening of NGOs in Haiti as opposed to strengthening their public institutions.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
Thanks, Bethany. Well, the Court of Appeal upholding a 1-year sentence for a man who breached his bail curfew 6 times. The court described accused murderer Claude Tassie's breaches as egregious, and Tassie ignored his daily curfew on 6 separate occasions last year and on August 21st when he allowed the device to go dead. Tassie, who was represented by counsel, admitted the bail violations last September and was sentenced to 1 year in prison. However, he appealed the sentence, arguing that it was unduly harsh. But the court disagreed, saying the curfew breaches reflected a complete disregard for the conditions imposed. On the other hand, the court said a 1-year jail term was too severe for letting the device go dead. The court imposed a $5,500 fine or 2 months in prison for that offense, warning if persons violate their bail conditions, they risk jail time, and this could be the basis for revoking their bail. Now to a dramatic police arrest caught on camera showing what appears to be excessive behavior by the arresting officers. This video sent to Our News shows a man already on the ground when an officer picks him up and slams him face down onto the pavement. A second officer is seen kicking him in the face as shocked onlookers are heard in the background screaming. The first officer then places his foot on the man's back as another officer places the suspects in handcuffs. Now, Our News understands that this happened shortly after 10 o'clock last night in the Sunlight Village area off East Street. We have asked police for a comment, but so far, no response. And a local activist was held briefly by police after she went to Parliament Square to protest against what she calls a failing health system. Our Joshua Williams caught up with her shortly after her release.
The emotions pouring out from activist Patrice Hannah Carey as she shared what led her to go to Parliament Square to criticize the healthcare system. It comes in the wake of the passing of mother of three, Kenise Darville.
This represents the blood, the lives that were lost. Kenise Darville is just one of the most recent.
A viral video of Hannah Carey's interaction with officers was captured on a live Facebook feed. Carey was held briefly and later released from the Central Police Station. She says she holds no ill will towards the officers as they were just carrying out their duties.
Officers beckoned with me. There was no mistreatment on the officers' behalf. Please get up, please leave, please go. That wasn't enough for me. Please go, please leave. Everyone else, please go in, and everyone else's, please leave.
Carey shares this message of encouragement to residents.
Don't give up and definitely don't back down. Stand up and show out and let our system know, all of them. Systems work for the people. The people do not work for the system. Make our healthcare system benefit us.
Mrs. Carey says in spite of her ordeal today, she will continue to stand and fight for Bahamians. Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
All right, thanks a lot, Joshua. And to get another look at that story, you can visit ournews.bs. We've got a whole lot more to get to, but for now, it's time for your first look at temperatures. And meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center. Greg, I'm seeing high 70s tonight. Are we expecting that for the rest of the week?
No, we are going to see some mid to low 70s later on tonight as we have some clearing skies. Yeah, temperatures going to fall off, but we do have a frontal boundary that's going to come through, so temperatures will take a dip once again by the weekend.
All right.
Yeah. 79 degrees outside of Sirius right now with mostly clear skies. Winds are out of the south at 12 miles per hour. That's what's keeping the temperatures up in the upper 70s. Your feels like temperature at 77. But as those winds fall off, we expect temperatures to continue to fall off later on tonight. Other temperatures around the islands tonight, 75 in Freeport, 77 in Alistown, Bimini, as well as in Marsh Harbour, Abaco, 79 in Nicholstown. Over in Great Harbour Key, you are at 80, 78 in Governor's Harbour. Nassau here in the capital, 79. 77 in Kemps Bay, we pick up 78 in Arthurstown, Cat Island. Coburn Town, San Salvador, 75. 79 in Georgetown, as well as in Deadman's Key. And into the southeast Bahamas, temperatures are also warm there. 80 in Dunkertown, Ragged Island. We pick up 78 in Colonel Hill, Cricket Island, 79 in Delectable Bay, and in Abrahams Bay and Matthewtown in Agua. Turks and Caicos Islands are good neighbors to the southeast, rounding our temperature profile out at 77. Satellite view, high pressure ridge across our area is sliding out towards the east. That's paving the way for a frontal boundary now moving into Florida, the northern portion of Florida. A lot of tornado activity happening across that area. Those thunderstorms will continue to weaken as the front slides towards the south and approaches us. Should get into the northwest Bahamas by tomorrow afternoon. A couple isolated showers likely along that front, but we expect the front to continue to weaken as it pushes towards the south. And behind that, high pressure will be building in for the weekend, breezy conditions, and we expect some rather nice cool temperatures as well. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us. Look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Thanks, Greg. And still to come in our news, work underway to address Eleuthera's water issues. Water and Sewerage sets a timeline. Plus, how to plan your daily commute as roadworks continue in southern New Providence. And later, what you need to know about the upcoming state-recognized funeral for retired Justice Roger Gomez. That's coming up when Our News returns. Water issues in Eleuthera are said to be generally under control now. That's according to Water and Sewerage Corporation's general manager, who gave this update to our Marlena Leonard.
Eleuthera has had long-standing issues with reliable and clean water supply, and until the long-term issues can be addressed, the solution is 2 500,000-gallon bladder tanks for the Bogue and Naval Base water plant facilities. Water and Sewage Corporation's general manager, Robert Deal, tells us the work is already underway.
The construction of those started on Monday, and that's expected to last for another 2 weeks. Once those are constructed, the pipework has to be put in place, and then hopefully those tanks will be commissioned in due course to increase the storage capacity.
Desalination has also been an issue in the past. As recently as last month, residents turned on the taps to meet salt water pouring out after a plant malfunctioned on the island. Deal says they're working closely with the contractor to increase production capacity. New equipment is expected to arrive in New Providence on Friday, and Deal says they will be delivered to Eleuthera as soon as possible.
We have to increase the production capacity to ensure that we have additional production capacity to keep the tanks filled and to allow sufficient maintenance on the installed units that are there now. Those we expect 2 trailers to come in, one for North Eleuthera and also one for Central Eleuthera. Each of those will have an additional 200,000 gallons per day capacity.
And the general manager says they're trying to look beyond the problems of today to make sure the solutions are climate resistant, reliable, and functional for as long as possible.
We have very active discussions going on with the government, with BPL, and also with the private sector regarding a variety of options to introduce solar energy with respect to water production, and particularly in Eleuthera. There's a lot of focus in Eleuthera about how we can best improve the reliability of our supply and also the reliability of the power supply. And solar is a very active discussion in that front.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Thanks, Marlena. And turning now from Eleuthera to Grand Bahama, as 4 residents on that island gifted a place to stay free of charge for 6 months as they transition. The free housing made possible by a partnership between the Ministry for Grand Bahama, Collab, and the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Temporary housing is located on Trip Close. You may remember the Freeport Garden Resort was recently demolished on Mall Drive, where those residents were living before its demolition. Collab Director Jewel Edwards says it's all about providing opportunities.
Just to see lives transform, and just to see these occupants saying, listen, thank you for Minister Moxie for believing in us and giving us another chance. And that's really what Collab is about, pulling us all together. And so the word is out, as Canon Robertson has said, listen, call Collab. We want to help build Grand Bahama, and let's do this together.
And Collab Wellness Officer Canon Curtis Robinson will be offering counseling sessions.
Many people are still going through the traumatic experience of Dorian and even the pandemic. And so we need to take care of the whole person. So it's not just clothing them and sheltering, but also making sure they're meant.
Well, it's time now for our newest segment, Work in Progress, as the Ministry of Public Works and Utilities continuing its mission to make your daily commute a much smoother ride, especially if you live or work in the southern New Providence community. In today's Work in Progress segment, our Jamila Mizik explains how you can plan your daily commute.
A road patching exercise continues this week in the South Beach and Bamboo Town areas. And if you're wondering how it will impact the traffic flow, we have the answer. Owner of Black Gold Trucking, Darrell Brister, says for motorists, their morning commutes will have little to no interruption.
For the most part, when we're actually doing prep work, we try to get out and prep early or shortly after the morning commutes for people to drop their kids to school, their working hours. Now, when we apply asphalt, that timeline varies when we get it from the hot mix plant. So most times, once we get it early, it'll be done around this time, probably a little before lunchtime, and we'll be off the road for the most part. So it actually doesn't really affect motorists in terms of their commuting and traffic, because we do block off one side, and as you see, we have one person that manages the traffic for the most part.
And he's asking for motorists to drive carefully as work is being carried out.
For our safety, the cone isn't enough to stop someone from hurting us. So once you see the cones, guys in vests, adhere to it. I mean, basically slow down, please. As you can see, no matter what it is, the cars are just flying. So for our safety, I'd like for motorists to actually pay attention a little bit more.
For Work in Progress for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as Caribbean health officials are keeping an eye on mosquito-borne illnesses in the region. Plus, the state-recognized funeral for retired Justice Roger Gomez is set for Friday. What you need to know. And Princess Margaret Hospital's blood bank is in need of blood. We'll tell you how you can help when Our News returns. This is Our News. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. U.S. President Joe Biden calling on Congress to send a bill banning assault weapons to his desk as soon as possible. The request follows recent back-to-back mass shootings that killed 18 people in California. In two separate shootings within 3 days, 11 people were killed at a Los Angeles area dance hall, and 7 others were murdered at 2 farms in the seaside town of Half Moon Bay near San Francisco. Authorities say they still were trying to determine motives for both shootings.
See what's happened in California and what's happened to the Asian American community. It's been devastating. The Vice President's going to be going out. I've been talking with Gavin Newsom and Judy Chu and Anna Eshoo and Hilda Solis, and we're working out a number of things that we can and are going to be doing. So the bottom line here is that we got a lot to talk about.
The BBC says it has found evidence of a considerable number of COVID-related deaths in China's rural regions as the virus spreads from big cities to more remote areas with older populations. Coffin makers in a northern province say they have been extremely busy as there's still much debate about the real number of COVID deaths in China. Last weekend, China reported 13,000 COVID-related deaths in less than a week, adding to the 60,000 it counted since December. Leading epidemiologist Wu Zhongyu says some 80% of the population, more than 1 billion people, have been infected since December. Labour leader Chris Hipkins has been sworn in as New Zealand's Prime Minister following the resignation of Jacinda Ardern last week. The Labour Party elected former COVID-19 response and police minister Hipkins to lead on Sunday. The 44-year-old's deputy, Carmel Sepuloni, was also sworn in as the first person of Pacific Islander descent to hold the role.
This is the biggest privilege and responsibility of my life. I'm energised and excited by the challenges that lie ahead. The Deputy Prime Minister and I both take today's appointments very seriously. As Prime Minister, I acknowledge the important nature of my role in advising the Sovereign and the Governor-General.
Thank you for the trust that you have placed in me. Thank you for honouring me, my family and our Pacific community through this appointment.
Microsoft says it's investigating a networking issue impacting multiple services, including Teams and Outlook, for thousands of users globally. Microsoft did not disclose the number of users affected by the disruption, but data from outage tracking website Down Detector showed more than 4,800 incidents in India and Japan. Outage reports also spiked in Australia, Britain, and the United Arab Emirates. British Prime Minister Sunak defending his decision to launch an ethics inquiry into Nadhim Zawahi rather than sacking him. During Prime Minister's questions in Parliament today, Labour leader Keir Starmer said the PM was hopelessly weak for not firing the minister for seeking to avoid tax.
Does the Prime Minister agree that any politician who seeks to avoid the taxes they owe in this country is not fit to be in charge of taxpayer money?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to make my position on this matter completely clear to the House. The issues in question occurred before I was Prime Minister. With regard to the appointment of the Minister without portfolio, the usual appointments process was followed.
Guyana's Environmental Protection Agency says it can now use satellites to monitor any oil spills. The EPA put out a statement Tuesday saying it has contracted with Maxar Technologies in Colorado to enable real-time environmental monitoring of 2 of its offshore oil fields. The agency's former leader, though, criticizing the technology as ineffective, saying the only proper way of minimizing oil spills is to put spill prevention experts on board drilling ships and platforms. And finally, the Trinidad-based Caribbean Public Health Agency is urging regional countries that viral diseases such as dengue, chikungunya, and Zika are still circulating in the Caribbean. In a statement, CARPHA emphasized the importance of prevention and control measures to reduce the transmission of these viruses. The agency says member states must maintain a strategic approach to surveillance and sample collection and submissions to increase chances of early detection. Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was January 25th and the 1972 death of Sir Stafford Sands. Plus, Greg is back with your extended weather forecast. And then in our news at 7:30, the debate among Bahamians begins over whether a proposed sugar and salt tax is good for residents. That story when our news continues. Welcome back to our news. The Cabinet Office announcing today that a state-recognized funeral will be held for retired Justice Roger Gomez. The service is scheduled for Friday at 11 a.m. at St. Agnes Anglican Church on Blue Hill Road. The retired Chief Justice's body will lie in state in the Hansard Building tomorrow beginning at 9 a.m. He served as a stipendiary and circuit magistrate until he was appointed as Chief Magistrate in 2004. In 2013, he became a Justice of the Supreme Court. Gomez passed away on January 9th. Well, it's time now for your look at what helped shape the day that was January 25th, including the death of Sir Stafford Sands and an extension to a state of emergency. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history, in 1972, Sir Stafford Lofthouse Sands died in London, England. He was 59. During the 1940s through 1960s, the Bahamian businessman, lawyer, and politician who was born in the Bahamas was a leading figure in modernizing the Bahamian economy. His image was posthumously placed on the $10 bill in 2001 to 2005 and again in 2010 to present. Then in 2018, the Bahamas Historical Society hosted its lecture series, Discover the Bahamas Again, Reconstructing Lucayan Lifeways by Dr. Michael Pateman. In 2019, following the explosive Netflix and Hulu documentaries on the Fire Festival scam, then acting Customs Comptroller Dr. Janine Moss said all customs duties related to the failed festival had already been collected, claiming black crab syndrome over the Bahamas' portrayal on social media. And finally, on January 25, 2021, then Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis announced his government's intention to extend a state of emergency put in place at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. We've been apprehensive about visiting the blood bank to make a donation. Officials at Princess Margaret Hospital say they are working to ensure blood drives can happen beyond the walls of the facility. PMH Assistant Director of Communications, Thelma Roll Fernandez, says a blood drive will be held on Saturday at the Mullet Marathon.
We're so happy to be able to, again, for this year, first blood drive, a community blood drive where we can meet the people and go into the community and do this blood drive. Some people are hesitant to come to the hospital, to the blood bank, and so we want to be able to encourage the idea of going into the community and popular spaces like the mall to be able to allow persons to freely come in and donate.
Now, Roll Fernandez says the process will take only about 30 to 45 minutes.
It takes only about maybe 30 to 45 minutes, process in, process out, and you would have already saved 3 lives in your donation of blood. So this coming Saturday, Mall of Marathon, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We'll be taking pre-registration. Look out on our Facebook page, Instagram. Go ahead and register, pre-register for a scheduled time, and we'll be able to assist you on Saturday.
All right, to watch that story and for all of today's top stories, you can visit ournews.bs. That's going to do it for us in News at 7. Joining us now is Italia Hall. She's got the latest headlines. Italia?
Yes, well, we are still following the illegal immigration situation as the Foreign Affairs Minister is claiming hysteria and how you can help address a shortage in the blood bank at PMH.
A call for a regional approach to help Haiti.
New tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. The Prime Minister makes an appeal as the Immigration Minister says some are using the issue of immigration to incite hysteria. And new taxes may be on the way for sugar and salt. How some residents say the taxes may impact how we eat and dine.
It is sometimes a matter of life or death. Find out how you can help save a life by donating at least 1 pint of your blood. I'm Jamila Mizik and I'll have those details straight ahead.
And later, how a public corporation is taking green solutions on the road. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment. Welcome to Our News and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalia Hall. The country's immigration chief is claiming hysteria tonight over the illegal migration situation the country continues to face. Berthree McDermott tells us in a moment why the immigration minister is on the defense. But first, a tax on sugar and excess salt imported into the country may be on the way following an announcement from the Minister of Health and Wellness. But how would that impact you? Our Megan Shepard has the story.
What you're trying to do? Tell us how to live or how you all want us to live. No, that ain't fair.
Proposed legislation to impose taxes on sugar and excess salt is in an effort to create a healthier Bahamas, according to Minister of Health and Wellness Dr. Michael Darville. So far, the views of Bahamians have been mixed. Judy Forbes says she believes it is a good idea, but Bahamians must do their part to take their health more serious.
The government could do whatever they want to do, but if we, the people, don't take it in perspective to say, well, it's my health and I have to do something about it, pretty much nothing's going to, it's going to come to naught.
Forbes adds that generational eating habits must also be broken.
When we should now be taking care of our children and our grandchildren, not so much our grandchildren, but enjoying life with them, they now become our primary care to take care of us because of our lifestyle. And then we didn't teach them anything, and it's a circle would continue to, pass on.
Stanley Mortimer says he agrees, but more information needs to be shared with the public.
They need to tax it. Yeah, I think it's an excellent idea, but they should have more discussion on it.
However, Kenneth Smith says he disagrees, and although the tax is in an effort to promote healthier lifestyles, he suggests residents simply use alternative options.
If you want sugar, you get sugar. If you want salt, you get salt. Who don't want it, then just don't let them get it.
They also oppose the idea of more taxes.
You can't pay for it. So instead of imposing tax on us, they should try to reduce the prices for us.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
Thanks, Megan. 443 migrants were apprehended in the Bahamas between Tuesday and Wednesday. That's according to immigration officials who say they've all been brought to the capital for processing. Now, earlier this morning, 18 Cuban nationals were found in waters near Key Sal Bank by United States Coast Guard officers and turned over to the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. On Tuesday, 375 Haitian nationals and 2 Cubans found in the same area were turned over to immigration officials in Matthewtown and Nagua by Coast Guard officials. Also on Tuesday, 7 Cubans were found by officers on Cat Key and Bimini, and later 41 Haitian nationals were also found when their wooden sloop was abandoned near the bluff Andres. The Department of Immigration issuing a statement noting that the immigrants are now in the capital and deportation efforts are being coordinated. Now to read the full statement live on the Our News Bahamas Facebook and Twitter pages. Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell is hitting out at locals who he says are using the immigration challenges to stir up a frenzy. Berthree McDermott reports.
So the Prime Minister wants the world to know that we are trying to keep on top of this problem, and it's unfortunate that certain people in the domestic theater are trying to use this to whip up hysteria.
That's Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell speaking to Our News from Argentina, where he, along with the Prime Minister, is attending the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States meeting. At the regional event, the Prime Minister addressed the crisis in Haiti, which is impacting the Bahamas and neighboring countries. On Sunday alone, nearly 400 Haitian migrants were apprehended in what the U.S. is calling one of the largest smuggling operations in the region. In recent days, the topic of migration took center stage after a group of protesters led by Coalition of Independence leader Lincoln Bain gathered outside OPM decrying government's handling of the issue. The FNM has also gone on record saying government is dragging its feet on addressing related issues. Mitchell says the problem can be effectively managed.
Migration is an issue. We have to help Haiti to resolve the problem. but our domestic forces are at work defeating the problem of irregular migration, returning those who should not be in the Bahamas home, and we need the support of the international community to do that.
But that's not the only issue the Bahamian delegation touched on while at CELAC. He also spoke about climate change, adding that the region must band together on the issue.
And we have to, as a group, as a hemisphere, join together with one voice to say that loss and damage, mitigation and adaptation have to be paid for by those who are the major emitters of carbon into the atmosphere.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
And as the situation in Haiti shows no sign of getting better anytime soon, Prime Minister Philip Davis telling a room full of regional leaders that it will take a collective approach to help Haiti find a way out of the current crisis. The PM was speaking in Argentina at the opening session of the 7th Summit of Heads of State and Government of the Community of Latin America and Caribbean States.
The crisis in Haiti is getting worse. The tragic situation there continues to pose a substantial threat not only to Haitians, but also to the Bahamas and neighboring countries, all of whom are experiencing a significant increase in irregular and often dangerous migration.
On Sunday, law enforcement apprehended nearly 400 Haitian nationals looking to illegally enter the Bahamas. The United States is calling it one of the largest smuggling operations in the region. That was followed by another 26 caught in South Andros Tuesday evening. Davis, who is also CARICOM chairman, says enhanced regional partnerships can also help.
These Haiti-led solutions provide promising alternatives to the usual inclination to carry out activities in Haiti without Haitian direction, and a preference for investing in the strengthening of NGOs in Haiti as opposed to strengthening their public institutions.
Prosecutors reinstating a murder charge against Marcia Knowles, the 19-year-old, appeared before senior magistrate Carolyn Vo Evans, charged with the July 4, 2022 shooting death of Ramando Hyler at Quarry Mission Road. Knowles was remanded into custody until April, when it is expected he will receive voluntary bill of indictment papers. Now, this is the second time that Knowles has been charged with the same offense. Another magistrate discharged Knowles after prosecutors failed to serve him with his VBI in a timely fashion. Well, it looks like clear skies outside the Our News studios tonight. Meteorologist Greg Thompson has the latest live from the Weather Center. Good evening, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Dahlia. It's clear outside and temperatures are starting to fall, but they're warm still in the upper 70s on the outside. Mostly clear skies, as you mentioned, so it's kind of comfortable out there. South winds, they have come down. They were 12 miles per hour earlier. They're now at 10, and your feels like temperature, a very comfortable 77. Around the islands right now, there's a ridge of high pressure still across us, but that ridge is weakening and sliding out towards the east. That's paving the way for a frontal boundary now approaching us from the northwest, moving across north central Florida. Should get here by tomorrow afternoon, bringing us a couple isolated showers, and then we expect a nice cool down once that front goes through for the weekend. That's your first quick check of our weather. Stick with us. A look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on Our News, how you can help save a life one pint at a time, addressing the public blood bank's critical shortage. And Grand Bahama residents displaced by demolition now have a new home. Their story is straight ahead, but first, Centrally Lutheran teachers protest after an alleged attack from a parent. The details when Our News returns. The blood bank at the Princess Margaret Hospital is in critical need of blood. Tonight, our Jamila Mizik tells us how you can do your part to donate.
A pint of blood can be a precious gift to those in need of the life-saving fluid. And that is why officials at the Princess Margaret Hospital's blood bank are...
Now, we apologize for that technical difficulty. We will come back to that report later on in the newscast. Well, teachers at the Centrally Lutheran High School stepped out of the classroom to stand in solidarity with a fellow instructor who was attacked allegedly by a parent in the principal's office. Bahamas Union of Teachers President Belinda Wilson says there are a number of concerns at the school. She says police are looking into this matter.
A series of meetings held with the principal, the district superintendent. There's a list of concerns related to safety on the school campus, discipline or the lack thereof, and the concerns about disruptive, rude students, one of whom is the son of the parent.
Milton also has this warning for parents.
But I want to discourage parents from taking matters into their own hands and entering school campuses to attack or to approach teachers in an aggressive manner. The Bahamas Union of Teachers will not stand for this, and we stand behind our teachers 100%.
Some residents of the demolished Freeport Garden Resort now have a new place to call home, thanks to a partnership with the Ministry for Grand Bahama and the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Now the joint effort helped place those residents in a transitional home located on Trip Circle. Those residents are sharing their experience.
It rained this morning, and I didn't have to put no bucket out. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. Continue to do the good work for people like me.
The transition homes are for people who have been through a lot and need a place of their own as they try to rebuild their lives. Malfredo Duncombe is one of the 4 Freeport Garden Resort residents who says he is grateful. Duncombe lived at the Freeport Garden Resort since 2014 because he says at the time it was affordable.
When you don't have a permanent job, you try to make ends meet, so Vince on the Mall was something that I didn't have to make no first and last. So that's where I end up, and I've been there ever since, till now.
Another former resident of the Freeport Garden Resort, Trevor Morley, is also grateful, but says he wants to do more with his life and he needs help. Morley says a barber kit can help him make an honest living.
I feel like the men that would support me, once they know that what I'm good for in the barbering trade, the income will bring me up.
Minister for Grand Bahama Ginger Moxie says they want to see the occupants of the home thrive.
It's a journey of transformation. It is one where we have our resource center right next door with Ken and Curtis Robinson, who is our wellness counselor. They have all of the supplies that they need. They have the opportunity to really rebuild their lives. This home has been adopted by the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and so they are the ones that are going to be handling the expenses of this home for the next 6 months.
When our news comes back from the break, increased water capacity for Eleuthera. How teams on the ground are already at work.
Plus, coming up in sports for tonight, Buddy Hield and the Indiana Pacers picking up a nice win. We'll give you details on Buddy's performance and more. We'll also break down the UB Mingos performance at the DTSP Wolfpack track meet this past weekend. That's coming up in sports.
But first, how the Water and Sewerage Corporation is revving up green energy solutions. That story on the other side of this break. This is Our News. Welcome back. The Water and Sewerage Corporation has purchased 3 new electric vehicles and 3 charging stations in New Providence as a part of a pilot program to see how they can best transition to having a more environmentally friendly fleet on the road. General Manager of the Water and Sewerage Corporation, Robert Deal.
We have started with the initial 3 vehicles as a pilot project. We want to see how they work from a charging perspective, but also in terms of usability on the street, what's the staff response to them, and then we want to expand. But we know we will have to expand in due course. We are presently in very active discussions with some of the local fleet suppliers, particularly looking for small trucks that we can utilize both here in New Providence and in the Family Islands. Ultimately, the idea is that our major complexes that the rooftops will be have solar arrays put on them so that the energy that we acquire from solar energy can be saved and utilized to charge these vehicles.
And this program is just the beginning of plans to transform their operations into a more climate-resistant and sustainable method.
The corporation has been charged by the government, of course with the support of our minister and our board, to move in a direction that is more environmentally friendly. Following a hurricane event, if there's a period where there's limited fuel availability, even if there's limited electrical supply, if we have solar, we can utilize that to power our vehicles and address our customer needs.
Two 500,000-gallon bladder tanks for Eleuthero's Bogue and Naval Base water plant facilities have arrived as a short-term solution for the island's water issues. General Manager of the Water and Sewerage Corporation, Robert Deal, tells us work is already underway.
Construction of those started on Monday, and that's expected to last for another 2 weeks. Once those are constructed, the pipework has to be put in place, and then hopefully those tanks will be commissioned in due course to increase the storage capacity.
Deal says they're working closely with a contractor to increase their production capacity. New equipment is expected to arrive in New Providence on Friday, and Deal says they will be delivered to Eleuthera as soon as possible.
We have to increase the production capacity to ensure that we have additional production capacity to keep the tanks filled and to allow sufficient maintenance on the installed units that are there now. Those we expect 2 trailers to come in, one for North Eleuthera and also one for Central Eleuthera. Each of those will have an additional 200,000 gallons per day capacity.
Grand Bahama native Buddy Hield and the Pacers with a big rally versus the Bulls. And from local track, the Mingos performed well with a couple of wins. Here's Marcellus Hall.
All right, thanks, Natalia. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Well, the Indiana Pacers have been playing some pretty good basketball in the Eastern Conference as of late. Last night, facing off another tough opponent, the Chicago Bulls. How would it turn out? Let's find out. Buddy Hield and Indiana Pacers squaring off against the visiting Chicago Bulls. Not your typical nice shooting for Buddy. Jump shot not as wet as they say. More like a little moist, like your fingers after eating a bag of Cheetos, if you pardon the analogy. Hield just 5 of 14 from the floor. He did, though, finish with 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. And most importantly, a win. Pacers get the victory 116-110. Switching gears to track and field, where the UB Mingos working in cahoots with the other local track clubs competing at the DTSP Wolfpack Never Wisdom Classic. This at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium this past Saturday. Mingos with moderate success as Kenold Jean won the Open Men's 3,000 in 10 minutes, 40.74 seconds. Meanwhile, middle distance specialist Levine Joseph, he won the Open Men's 800 meters in 156.16, just ahead of Kinsey Knowles of Swift Athletics, who was second in 157.66.
I'm excited. This is our second meet out. We're steadily improving as I expected. So, looking for a great season going forward. Rainy, a season best in 100 meters, half a second improvement with a 12.5. So, again, like I said, we're looking for a good season this year. We're going to train the next 2 weeks. We don't compete until the next 3 weeks. So we're looking to go hard these next 2 weeks and hopefully to get some personal bests when we come back.
And that's your check on sports here on this Wednesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Italia.
Your midweek weather forecast is coming up right after this break. Welcome back to our news. We've enjoyed some beautiful weather this week. Now Greg is back in the Weather Center with a look ahead.
Thanks again, Natalia. Welcome back, everybody, for our final look at weather. We are tracking a frontal boundary that's now pushing into the northern portion of Florida. A couple isolated showers and some strong thunderstorms associated with that happening across that area, but that front is continuing to weaken as it slides towards the southeast. The high pressure across us that's been generating some beautiful weather, at least for the last day or two, is sliding out to the east. Behind this front, we do expect a high pressure system to build across us for the weekend, and that high pressure system will bring us also some nice cooler weather. Frontal boundary, as I mentioned, across North Florida, really making its way towards the south. By tomorrow afternoon, it should get into the northwest Bahamas with a couple isolated showers along the boundary, then quickly race out towards the east and further weaken. And as I mentioned, high pressure will build across us. We should see some cloudy conditions for at least Friday and Saturday, maybe even an isolated shower in the forecast. Doing any boating tonight through tomorrow, your winds will be out of the south to southwest at 10 to 15 knot seas, running 2 to 4 feet over the ocean. They will fall light and variable across the northwest Bahamas. High tide will be at 10:59 tonight for the central and southeastern islands. Southeast is southerly flow at 10 to 15 knots. Seas be running 2 to 4 feet over open waters. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, as mentioned, that front moving into our area by tomorrow, Friday, we're looking for some isolated showers. With that, by Saturday, the clouds will still be around, but temperatures will be comfortable, but they climb back into the 80s for next week. That's your look at weather. Back to you, Talia.
All right, now to that story. The blood bank at the Princess Margaret Hospital is in critical need of blood. Tonight, our Jamila Mizik tells us how you can do your part to donate.
A pint of blood can be a precious gift to those in need of the life-saving fluid. And that is why officials at the Princess Margaret Hospital's blood bank are appealing for year-round donations. Blood bank supervisor Mario Williams says any healthy person aged 16 and older can donate.
Now, if you're a diabetic on insulin, you can't donate blood. Okay? Sicklers, anybody with any type of illnesses, persons who decide they're going to do tattoos, get acupuncture and stuff like that, we tell them temporarily we'll defer you 1 year, or persons who have had an operation, so to speak. So we give them 1 year, let your body heal itself, let your body get rid of all the toxins and everything, and then you can resume donating blood.
Williams says knowing your blood type beforehand isn't a requirement, and for most people, the process to donate is a simple half-hour process. But there is another requirement.
Try to keep your iron stores up. Try to be good with that. You know, eat your greens. That's part of one of the processes of being able to donate.
And donating blood does not have to be a one-and-done process. You can donate blood at least once per quarter, as 1 pint of blood can save up to 3 lives.
We rely mostly on replacement donors, and that is why we would say to some persons, okay, you'd have to, if you're coming in for a procedure, you have to let friends and families know that you're coming in for a procedure, and that procedure requires blood. And many of our donors come in that way. We would hope that more donors would just come in, walk in and say, I came to donate a pint of blood. I want to see if I can. We do have some people like that. And if I can, I will come again, and I will come again. And they will proceed to do that.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
All right, now we know that a pint of blood can definitely save a life. Thanks for that, Jamila. And thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.